The next episode will be probably, objectively, one of the best shooters ever to come out. Today I'm going to talk about Scuba. German words I'm not going to attempt. Shout out to Jeff Schleg and DBK. We all did a lot of research. I wouldn't have known about this game's existence if it wasn't for them. And this video wouldn't have happened without them. And yeah, so huge shout out to them. A lot of the information I'm going to present in this video about Scuba itself has been gathered by them, and to some degree. You can check out their YouTube and Twitch channels by following the links below. So, before we can talk about Scuba, let's talk about lost media. If you don't know what lost media is, it's essentially books, film, video games, documents, works of art that cannot be consumed right now. So if you can't buy it, or download it, or stream it, or consume it in some kind of way, then it's lost. But something can't be lost if it hasn't existed, so usually accompanied with lost media as proof of its existence. Some famous examples include London After Midnight, which we have stills of this movie, but we don't have the complete thing. There's First Men in the Moon, there's The Television Ghost, which the only proof of its existence is like newspaper clippings and stuff. And lost media is recovered every now and again. Famous examples is like Crybaby Lane, that Nickelodeon broadcast. There was a Mary Pickford movie that was thought to be lost, and it had resurfaced. And yeah, Metropolis kind of counts. Most of it survived. But I think last time I checked, most people say it's only 95% complete because it was a very long movie at the time. What is considered feature-length now was long at the time. It got cut up. Anyway, let's end the conversation about lost media. So let's get to video games. I like tracking down what I call borderline lost games, where we know that it exists and we know it's around. We just gotta find a way to get it, whether that be the 1 or 2 eBay listings we can find, or we kind of have an idea of who might have it and do some cold calling. There was a Bible game that DBK had found, and he did stream it, called Heavenbound. And yeah, all I did was contact a website. We didn't know if it was still active or not, and paid for a digital version, and it's now been recovered. We haven't found anything that's like sought after and been considered lost, and I don't think we ever will, but who knows. And there's just so many video games that you don't know how much stuff in here might be borderline lost. I have streamed a lot of games that have had no YouTube videos, no abandonware download links, wasn't on archive.org, and yeah, I would consider those borderline. There was eBay listings, some I found in a thrift store, so they weren't completely gone. So this leads up to why I bought Scuba. DBK and Jeff Schleg found traces of this game. It has a Moby Games page, and using the title, we were able to find old reviews of it using the Wayback Machine, and so we knew it was a thing, and we had some cover art, but most importantly, we saw gameplay footage. On YouTube, there's like a 12-year-old video of a guy showing like 20 seconds of the gameplay. It's really weird, and that's all you really see of it. And then one day, while just going through the list of games I'm looking for, I just started searching through eBay, and a listing popped up from Germany, and it was only like 10 euros, but the shipping was much more, and ended up paying a lot for this game. So it comes in, and I'm excited. I'm unpackaging it on camera. This video started completely different, and then I put it in my computer, and I go to install it, and I notice that the EXE and the installer itself, in fact, the whole entire game, isn't called Scuba German words. It's called Scoobginners. I'm not really exactly sure how you would say that. I think it's supposed to be beginners, but they replaced the beginning part with Scoob, so Scoobginners. Anyway, yeah, Scuba, Geheimnisse, Meere, or whatever, is the German title, and it was published by Incagold only in Germany, and it was actually developed by Explored, who was featured at the bottom of the box. Explored is a developer who still exists, and I'm guessing this is just how they got physical distribution in Germany. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but I'm assuming it was a collaboration between Incagold, whatever Turbo Games is, which could be a distributor, publisher, distributor. Maybe Incagold was in charge of translating it, and as the people that distributed it. Whatever the case, Scuba's a German title. And Scuba Getters is actually relatively easy to find. Now, if you look through abandonware sites, you can find the Italian version, and if you go to the Russian forums that we use to track down obscure games, you can find the Russian version. But this game still is technically borderline lost when it comes to an English translation. The game was originally developed in Italy, judging by the press releases and stuff that I had found, and the fact that Explored is from Italy. Now, I know that an English copy exists. I found a retail release for a website that sells like diving equipment, but I'm not about to spend any more money on obtaining one, and I was able to get to this game quite a bit without relying on English, but I'm sure there's some more details that I missed out because I don't know German or I don't know Russian. Before I forget, the Scuba Getters website is still up, but it's broken. I think this is where you could have got the English version, but it's not working. So even when I enabled Flash and used old browsers and stuff like that, I think the website's still up for some reason because someone's still paying for it, but it no longer works. So yeah, lost media is not always a fruitful adventure leading to a grand discovery. And in fact, most of the time, lost media games aren't great. But regardless, it's pretty cool that I own this and I was able to track it down. In a typical Incagold fashion, there's no manual and the disc feels really cheap. But yeah, so now we can talk about the gameplay. So I'm assuming Explored teamed up with a bunch of different diving companies to make this game, or at least have it sponsored. And I think this is an edutainment game, which means that I'm not going to be that hard on it, really, because it's edutainment. It's meant to educate kids about stuff, and here I think it's about scuba diving. You're going to hear me say I think a lot, because I don't read German, but there's a lot of educational-like things about this I can tell right off the bat. Not only from the massive amount of tutorials, but how it eases you into diving. The story is that some kids come to visit their uncle or somebody's uncle, and then they end up going scuba diving after talking to like a researcher, an expert scuba diver, some dude who like, guess he's like a journalist, and you can go about the island, talk to these people to get missions and view them in the logbook, and then you can buy gear, change out your gear before you go diving, and then of course go diving. I mean, the graphics and art style is pretty great, and this is even amplified when you get in the water. This game came out in 2006, and yeah, there was a lot of great games at that time, but I think this stands out. For being a budget game, this looks pretty good. It's very atmospheric too. You got this awesome music as you're just swimming around looking at all the fish. I did find a trailer for this game, and there was shipwrecks, but I never got that far. See, when you get objectives, you're given like pictures of what you need to look for, and I don't know what that is. And when I Googled the German, it said starfish on Google Images, and I didn't see a single starfish anywhere. But every time you finish a mission successfully, you get shells, and you can pay for that to get better equipment. But I never got to a point where I was using actual scuba gear. I was just snorkeling. I think eventually you will get like an oxygen tank, but not here. The equipment affects how fast you go and like how slow your goggles fog up. And then I think decompression sickness plays a role, judging by the bar at the top. But yeah, you go diving and you do certain things, whether it be looking for a certain species of whatever that is, to taking pictures of fish, to cleaning up pollution that's in the water. It's a pretty cool little edutainment game. I think this would have been fantastic if it released a few years earlier when entertainment was big. But regardless, even if it came out in 06, I think this would have been a good kids game to have. It's really fun to explore the water, and I wish I could get to an oxygen tank or know a cheat to have unlimited air, because it's just fun just to go swimming and look around. The coolest thing I found was some sharks that were just vibing. They didn't bite me or anything. But yeah, there's so much stuff to like look around and see. It's incredible. There's a lot of conversations you can have with people, and I imagine there's a story I don't know about, or maybe they're just, talking about safety and talking about the ocean or something. Who knows? There is like a computer where you can like refer to the species and learn about them and stuff. And then there's one part where the diving instructor, you gotta like follow him around, which this is the only time the graphics look painful. But yeah, you have to follow him for a very long time. About put me to sleep. The only complaint I have about this is that song you hear when you get in the water is the only song that it plays. So it's cool the first time you hear it, but after hearing it the 15th time, it gets a little weird. And you also hear birds chirping, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll probably end up playing this on my off time just so I can get to that shipwreck. But I really wanted to get this video out because finding out that Scuba was not its original name and it's actually something else, and it was actually pretty readily available this whole entire time, makes me a little sad. But at the same time, you would have known about this if we hadn't pursued it. And that's the whole point of this series, which is why I'm going to dial back on the obscurity a little bit to keep from videos like Speed Racer from happening ever again. I'm not going to go blind into stuff anymore. Games are going to get pre-screened. Like, I probably would have covered Scuba if I followed these guidelines, but there's really not much to talk about with this game because I don't know German and I couldn't get that far. And it's rather simple. There's not really a whole lot to do besides do the missions that are given to you and return back to whoever gave you the mission. But games are going to be pre-screened to make sure they have enough content before I cover them. Usually I'll get a game, and if it's sealed, open it up on camera, play it, and record my first playthrough and go with that. That ain't happening anymore. Also, I'm going to be a lot more lenient on what I consider obscure. Before, I was always looking for stuff like Scuba that had never been covered before, and it still doesn't really have much YouTube coverage of it, especially English speaking. And so from now on, I'm going to pick games that just haven't been covered that much, or it's just raw gameplay footage from years ago. And yeah, I think that will help this series be a little bit more entertaining and a little bit less underwhelming. And I just want to make that announcement, just in case you wonder why the games get a little bit more further up the iceberg than, say, Scuba. Scuba's a cool game. With controls that make sense, everything worked fine. It ran well. Not many complaints. Probably the first obscure game that I found that's passable. But the next episode, or video rather, will be late 90s PC gaming. And it is, if you haven't figured it out already, going to be Half-Life. Yay!